Hello everybody, it's the Game Judge here, and I have been wondering, will Blizzard be different under Microsoft's banner? Now we know they were recently acquired by Microsoft and the deal was finalized on October 13th, 2023, but I think to kind of understand how things may be different, we have to start with the leadership. And with that being said, I want to start with Blizzard's former CEO of Activision Blizzard, Bobby Kotick. And let's just say this guy was not off to a great start. I mean, he became CEO of Blizzard in 2008, and then shortly after that in 2009, he was quoted saying this: "The goal that I had in mind in bringing a lot of the packaged good folks into Activision about 10 years ago was to take all the fun out of making video games." And that, ladies and gentlemen, was the guy who was running the show at Activision Blizzard. I'm going to play a video for you guys, and you tell me, does this guy seem inspiring to you? Can you imagine working as a dev under this guy?
30 some odd years I've been running the company. We made games for consoles and for PCs.
I mean, just listen to this guy. He sounds like a corporate robot.
Those were really limited to people who are middle-class consumers in developed countries.
I like how in this part he's trying to say that, oh, we released games for console and it was only for the middle-class developed countries. And so we're doing this out of the goodness of our heart to release these games in the non-developed countries where they have cell phones. I mean, that's hilarious to me. We all know the truth. But the real question is, how did Blizzard fare under his leadership? Well, for starters, let's not forget about the famous debacle in 2018 at BlizzCon.
Android and iOS, we don't have any plans at the moment to do PC. Do you guys not have phones?
Yeah, you guys all have phones, right?
You can play on your tablet too.
I mean, yeah, that's so surprising at this big BlizzCon convention that people go to that they're, upset when you announce Diablo for their mobile phones. I mean, that's exactly what everyone wanted that plays Diablo, right? I mean, this YouTube comment here kind of summed up how everyone was probably feeling at the time. Imagine paying for a ticket to BlizzCon, flying there, paying for your hotel, and being one of the lucky ones to get a seat at this event, all just to watch a lame mobile game ad. Ah, that's rough. Well, what else do we know about the Bobby Kotick, the former CEO of Activision Blizzard? Well, you had allegations from former developers about sexual harassment and a toxic workplace that started to pop up, and the odd event where Bobby Kotick laid off 800 employees in 2018 despite setting financial record profits that year, only to turn around and hire the same positions later. So we have a toxic work environment and leadership, no doubt. Now, this would obviously affect the game development process, and we saw that in Warcraft 3 Reforged, a game that angered a lot of fans. Maps look significantly worse than the 2018 reveal. The re-recording voiceovers were scrapped entirely, and most upsetting of all, features that had been present in Warcraft 3 for decades, like clans and offline play, were missing. The new EULA also gave Blizzard full ownership of any mods that were made in Reforged, which greatly upset the Warcraft 3 modding community. And because Warcraft 3 Reforged effectively replaced Warcraft 3 entirely, there was no way to go back and play the original without buying a physical copy. And then an article in 2021 came out by Bloomberg that said that most of World of Warcraft 3 Reforged's problems or failings was due to Activision coming in later and cutting their budget and forcing them to remove features from the game. Yikes. Then you had seasoned people leaving left and right, like Jeff Kaplan, who was a lead designer for Overwatch, a very successful game by most metrics. This all sounds like a mess because, well, it was a mess. But how will Microsoft handle Activision Blizzard now? Let's look to the man in charge, Phil Spencer. What do we know about him? What does he bring to the table? He started to take over Xbox gaming side essentially in 2014. He introduced the Game Pass in 2017, which I thought was a great idea and was well received by the gaming community in general. He has advocated for cross-platform play, reintroduced backwards compatibility to the Xbox platform, and did a lot more porting of Microsoft-published games to platforms like the Nintendo Switch. And on top of that, he has been buying up development studios like crazy in order to get better exclusives for Xbox. The biggest thing Microsoft has been lacking under his leadership is a really good exclusive that makes you want to buy an Xbox. I will give him credit, however, for buying a lot of promising studios to fix this, such as Obsidian Entertainment, Bethesda, Ninja Theory, and ID Software. I need more time on this to see where it's going with Phil. And this leads me to my next part, and that is, how are the working conditions or the work environment under Phil Spencer? Honestly, nothing's really surfaced or came out that's damaging Spencer in this regard. In fact, he has been quoted in a Kotaku article back in 2019 saying, "You've got to be able to listen to your studios when they need time and they want to focus on more things." He's at least saying the right things here, and there hasn't been any leaks, like I said before, about anything dealing with crunch times or treating developers in a bad way, at least that I'm aware of. Now, this next part about Phil Spencer is an interesting look into how Microsoft is going to handle game development going forward. Now, this is according to an article by PC Gamer. Microsoft intends to proceed with a relatively hands-off approach, allowing each developer to do what they do best without any added stress from a new set of rules or expectations. It is about the culture of those teams, Spencer said. This is also reflected in a podcast that Spencer did recently with the Xbox podcast.
Most important thing I can do is empower the teams. An empowered and motivated team that feels like they have of agency and ability to drive their own vision with a perspective that maybe I can help. That is if there's anything I can do in my role, it's empower the teams and make them feel safe, make them feel like failure's okay, let's go learn. And then I get out of the way.
Now, there does appear to be some truth in him saying this, especially with the recent release of Redfall, and unfortunately Redfall didn't do too well, but the release is evidence that he's sticking to his word. And even Mike Wybera, probably saying that wrong, the president of Blizzard, made some interesting comments about Phil Spencer's hands-off approach to development and Microsoft's leadership, or Xbox leadership rather, compared to Activision. This was according to a Bloomberg article. In the 2 years he has been in charge, Wybera had to run many decisions up the chain of executives at Activision, slowing everything down. Going to Phil and saying, "Hey, can we do this?" I think he would look at me and go, "Run your studio," Wybera said. "I think our decision making will be faster." Now, I think this is great that Phil is going to kind of let them run their studio how they want and cut out a lot of that BS corporate interference that just slows things down, and then hopefully this gives the developers more time to allocate that time to other more important things in the game development process. Now, before this acquisition, Blizzard hits, misses, or delays could impact the share price of Activision, but now Blizzard will account for a much smaller slice of Microsoft, a difference that could mean less pressure overall on Blizzard. So a lot of positive signs here for Blizzard going forward. However, this Mike Rivera said some things recently that makes you wonder about him being president of Blizzard. In a recent interview with The Verge, he is quoted as saying, "Players have no patience. They want new stuff every day, every hour. While I didn't describe this as a bad thing, enthusiasm is necessary for the survival of live service games after all." Now, to me, this comes off as a little passive-aggressive and extreme, and I find this interesting that this guy is the head of Blizzard and that this is his attitude towards gamers. I just don't think it's a quantity issue. I think it's a quality issue. And I think if this is how he's going to respond to gamers holding them accountable, then this does make me worry a little bit. Also, if any were hoping that Blizzard would change under Microsoft, something to note here is he did mention live services, and even Phil mentioned mobile gaming essentially being necessary for Xbox's survival, and how they picked Blizzard up for being one of the best in the mobile market.
So a list of who are the most accomplished publishers in the mobile space. And most people wouldn't have expected, I think, I didn't, that Activision would have been as high with the King work, as well as the Call of Duty mobile work, Warzone stuff that they've been doing, Diablo Immortal. And so I want to go learn from those teams.
So it doesn't appear that Blizzard is changing that aspect of their vision. It just might be altered a little bit under Phil Spencer's leadership. This is evident later on when Phil Spencer goes on to say
that people who only play on their phone find Xbox to be something that's interesting for them. It doesn't mean I want to turn all of our franchises into mobile franchises. It doesn't mean everything's going to go free to play.
Like what Barra goes on later to say in the article, "We know players want new content, literally almost every single day. At the same time, it takes large teams to be able to deliver that." I understand what he's trying to say here, but again, I think he's falsely equivocating quantity and quality. In other words, when you put things into a game like patches for Diablo 4, for example, then make that impactful and improve that game in a way that makes players happy. It's more about what you put into the game and how it's designed as opposed to how much you put into the game. In fact, I would make the case that if you put better things in the game, then players will be satisfied longer and will stick around for the new stuff you put out and will be excited for it. When Mike Rivera says shit like this, it does make you wonder if Blizzard is ever going to change when you have people like this as president of Blizzard. Also, one last thing to note here is Phil Spencer did mention in his Xbox podcast interview that he is open to revisiting old franchises.
If teams want to go back and revisit some of the things that we have and do kind of a full focus on it, I'm going to be all in on that.
And using Xbox Game Pass as a way to potentially revisit franchises.
I do think with Game Pass, we have the ability to maybe pick a couple franchises every year and almost do like a revisited.
Now, with all this being said, I will say I can't imagine Blizzard being worse under the Microsoft banner compared to Bobby the Kotick's Snake and Activision. I mean, at least Phil Spencer plays video games.
Yeah, and some people here know that I'm a big consumer of what we do. I play a lot of games.
And I would say that there's a lot of potential positive signs that Blizzard may flourish under Microsoft. Who knows? Like I said, it can't be any worse, right? What do you guys think? Do you guys think that Blizzard is going to do any better, or do you think it's going to be the same Blizzard that it was under Activision? I'd like to know what you guys think in the comments below.